Greetings, everyone. Dale Parrish, COS Indiana Live, your host for this evening, along with my co-host, Mr. Ken Kashuba.
How you
Hi,
doing, Dave?
Ken.
Good to see you.
Ken's our state communications coordinator, so always glad to have Ken along. And Ken will be monitoring our viewer comments and questions. So anyone viewing tonight's broadcast, either on Facebook or through our YouTube channel, feel free to submit a comment or a question. Ken will take a look at those and call those to our attention, should any of them be pertinent for us to discuss. So, Ken, we always like to give just a little time to you to talk about that QR code up there in the corner. Can you now see that it's over farther in the corner for me. No, the other way.
Oh, it's different. It's for me. I've got it. So
You've got it. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
you must be in a mirror position there. But yeah, that QR code, that is for you to get your smartphone out and snap a picture of that, and it will get you to a place where you can put your name and email in, and you will become a subscriber to COS Indiana Live. Now, along with that comes some great material in the form of videos and educational material, and a lot of things that we put on there, which are solely for subscribers. So it's a great way to support us. Let us know you're there, and with doing that, we like to give back with lots of behind the scenes information. And who knows? That I think Dale was talking about. I think Dale, weren't you talking about for Christmas present you were going to give everybody there, every subscriber you were going to give like a Christmas present this year. I think that was one of the things we talked about. I thought.
Is that right? That must have been the meeting I was absent at. Because I don't remember that.
That's the meeting we assigned that to you. So.
You assigned it to me. Oh.
Those subscribers out there, if you get on tonight, you join our subscription list tonight, Dale's going to personally send you a Christmas gift. So
holy smokes, what are you getting us into here?
I'll be posting a link in the chat too during the night here.
Okay, well, folks, that may be the last time you hear Ken talk about the QR code. But now that QR code, that's really. He's really educated me on the use of QR codes, and I'm really beginning to see them more and more. So they're what?
They're everywhere.
They are everywhere. Yes, they are. Well, listen, without further ado, let's move on. And the first segment that we want to do tonight is we want to bring on our state director, Dale Tipton. Hello, Dale.
Gentlemen.
There he is.
And generally at the beginning of every month, we like to bring Dale on to talk about how the state finished the prior month, give us some update on how the Convention of States Indiana did for the month, for the prior month, which would be September. So, Dale, you want to start giving us a little update there?
Sure. I first just wanted to say that I am a COS Indiana Live subscriber, and I am overjoyed to find out about the Christmas present that I'm going to get from Dale this year.
See what Ken's done, folks? Oh, I'll get you something, Dale. Yes, I'll definitely get you something.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so fire up the first banner there, Dale, and we'll get started.
All right, well, Region 5.
So, obviously, we've got 14 regions in the state. Region 5 with Vicki Mooring as the region captain there. They have been the top statistical producer, I believe, just about every month since I've been doing these summaries.
It's been a long time. She just seems to be at the top of the list all the time. That's right.
Yeah. I think Region 5 is where you live, Dale. So maybe it's got something to do with that. I don't know.
Yes, I think I was region captain there at one time, but we won't go into that.
Yeah. Could be some kind of relationship. I'm not sure
Must be.
what it is. All right.
All right. Well, who are some outstanding people this in the month of September?
Okay, so we all, besides the top statistics for region, we also keep track of statistics per individual. And so this last month, David Nally, Gary Spielman, Stacy Garrett, Diane Jones, and Robert Aronson got the nod as the top performers across the state.
Now, you know, there are a couple of those names that seem to be on there every month too.
That's also true. There's a little bit of a pattern.
Yes, yes. We've got some people that are consistent high performers. That's good. That's good.
We need
All
them.
right. How'd we do on petition signers and supporters?
Well, this just kind of continues to rise. I mean, obviously, we didn't get as many petition signers for the year as we would have liked. But, you know, that's kind of what happens. I remember we always used to talk about topping 70,000 supporters in Indiana, and we have hit that goal. And so, you know, we just kind of keep climbing upward a little bit at a time.
You know, for a relatively small state, we're pretty high in the number of supporters. That 70,000, that's a pretty high number, really, compared to a lot of other states.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of other places, 30, 40,000 is a pretty good number.
Right, right. I mean, you get into Texas and you're well over 100,000, but
Yeah. Texas, Florida. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the bigger teams. Yeah.
Yeah. But
we're doing good in Indiana.
We're looking good. We're looking good. Okay. Well, tell us about the Article 5 experience that Marty and Dan went on.
Yeah, that kicked off in September as well. And this was basically a simulated convention, but different in the fact that this was for the grassroots. This was not for legislators. And so our own people got to go and participate as commissioners in a mock convention. And so they got to learn a lot, which they will be reporting back. The next state call we do the third Wednesday of the month in October, they will be the special guests and talk about all that. But I know they had a great experience being there and doing the debates. And it's one thing for an amendment to be suggested, but to actually debate the exact language of how that thing will read and stuff there's a lot more that goes into that than a person would imagine.
You know, prior to them going to this, Marty and Dan asked everyone to submit to them any ideas for proposed amendments. Did they get quite a few? Do you know ideas?
I believe they did. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of overlap, and repetition, but
right.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah, people responded quite well to that request.
I know. I submitted one. It's not a new one by any means, but it's always been one of my favorites. It's a Mark Levin proposed amendment, quite honestly, the one I submitted. But yeah. Actually, I think I submitted two, now that I think about it, but they were both Mark Levin proposed amendments. But anyway, yeah, we're looking forward to hearing from Marty and Dan on their experience. And
that took place at the Patriot Academy's campus at Comfort, Texas, where they actually had a humongous pole barn, and they built a actual legislative chamber within that building, so that whenever they were there doing their work, it was as if they were sitting in a chair as a legislature. You couldn't tell the difference. I mean, immaculate woodwork, chairs,
wow,
everything. Yeah, very well done.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Looking forward to hearing from them on it. Well, tell everybody about our work in September.
Well, the social media continues to roll, and it's a little bit of a roller coaster. I think close to 150,000 or so, 156,000 last month, dropped to 113,000. The followers, 12,353. I think that grew by 120 or so.
Yeah.
So everything everything keeps picking up, but as you guys keep changing format, adding things and tweaking it, using different tools, the numbers just keep, it's a little bit of a roller coaster, but the numbers just keep going up. So
I'll
well
tell you,
done.
it's all content driven. I think it's who we have on as a guest, what we're talking about. I think that's what drives these views.
One individual reel or short that Charlie publishes that catches people's attention and really gets going can totally change your month.
Yep. Okay. Well, Dale, give us a quick synopsis on the strategy meeting that we just held.
Well, we met in Anderson, Indiana on Saturday from about 9 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. We had about 26, 27 people there. Spent the morning with Christy Stutzman, who was a former legislator, kind of telling us about her experience as a legislator and how we can better interact with people to, promote the causes than the things that we're interested in.
Yeah.
And then we had a goal setting session in the evening. And so we got some rough ideas there for what we want to try to accomplish in 2025 that we'll craft into trackable goals and see where it takes us. It's always good. It's only twice a year we really get together as a group to meet face to face instead of a Zoom call. So it's good to break bread with people and talk and.
Yeah. Speaking of breaking bread, I just want you to know I gained 3 pounds as of Sunday morning. So you did not help my diet at all that day.
Yeah, but it wasn't me that twisted your arm to go back for that second helping either, was it?
I think it was. I think it was you that suggested that. But
I guess I did say I didn't want to see anything left, right? I did say that. But,
a lot of good food there. A lot of good food. Yeah.
It was also supposed to do 3 laps around the building after each course, though.
No one said anything about that. Holy.
Yeah, we didn't have time for that, Ken. We were far too busy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, I know at the strategy meeting, this was a surprise to you. You got one of the, if not the top award given to individuals, supporters, and volunteers out in the field. A challenge coin was presented to you, number 316. So congratulations, Dale. How'd you feel about that? Was that a total surprise to you?
That was an absolute and total surprise. I was expecting anybody's name to be mentioned once he started talking about it besides me. I just was totally unprepared for that. It had been my experience that it generally took people longer than I've been around to receive a challenge coin. And so that's why it just never, it never occurred to me. But
now, normally those challenge coin recipients are based on state director recommendations. Did you recommend yourself?
Well, I would have liked to have, but I did not have the chance. I'm strongly supportive of the recommendation. I'll tell you.
Well, it's very, very deserving. You're doing a great job, my man.
I happen to have this coin right here. You guys can probably see that.
Yeah.
And the thing that's unique about this, the first 300 coins had Mr. Mason on it, due to his Colonel Mason and his impact on the Article 5 idea in the Constitution. And then this one's got Dr. Thomas Coburn on it, who in the Senate, he was one of our original supporters and a real diehard supporter. Actually retired from the Senate and just continually, went to work for us. And Dr. Coburn passed away from cancer. And I noticed on the back of this coin, as he was going through this illness, somebody asked him, and it's printed on the coin, why do I keep fighting? And then his answer was, what else would I do?
Yeah.
Perfect.
What else would I do? So Dr. Coburn was quite an example, and he's memorialized on the next 300 coins, of which I was very, very happy to receive one. So very pleased.
Well, good for you, man. Good for you.
I think you gentlemen have both received one too, haven't you?
Yes, we have. So
it's my pleasure to join the club with you two fine gentlemen.
We know how it feels. Right, Dale. Well, Dale, thanks for the update, and I look forward to seeing you in early November to give us an October update. All right.
Very good. And I'm looking forward to the Christmas present. You guys have a good evening.
Boy, Ken, you've got me in a mess here, man.
Well, we have to keep things bubbling here. So
All right. All right. Thanks, Dale.
Yeah,
congratulations.
take care.
Dale. Good night.
All right. Well, let's move on here. And before I play this next video that we have for you here, I want to say a few words. One of the things that we've started doing this year is we've been trying to feature people that have been caught up in the January 6th incident and all the things related to it, and the not from the standpoint of trying to warrant whether it should have happened or not from that standpoint, but what we've been trying to focus on is the effect that it's had on people, the government's treatment of people that were involved in January 6th directly, as well as their families. And we're learning a great deal. As a matter of fact, we're going to hear from a couple this evening in just a few minutes that were caught up in that and that have been involved in that and are doing something about it. But what I want to show you right now is our contributor, Wendy Olson, who is a J6 advocate, and she's the one that has been bringing to us these people to talk to about their stories and about their experience. And Wendy was asked to testify in a hearing up on Capitol Hill, a hearing that was being held for Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. She couldn't go to the hearing, but she submitted a letter to them of what her knowledge about what the treatment of these January 6th people and their families. And I was so impressed with the letter because it sums up exactly what we're trying to do with this particular approach. And so I asked Ken to read the letter for us. And Ken does such a good job of doing this. So Ken, I'm going to play that. I want to play that now. And so I hope everybody enjoys this. It's about 5-6 minutes. So I thought Ken did a really good job on this. So let's go with that now.
Dear Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, I write this letter with a heavy heart. My American lineage has been traced all the way back to the Revolutionary War. Members of my family have served the United States of America in every war and conflict. There was a time we knew who the enemy was, and a time when we trusted our elected leaders to act in the best interests of America and their constituents. Even now, as I write this letter, I have received a phone call telling me that the Department of Justice has arrested another American for being present at the Capitol on January 6, 2021. Like so many other Americans, they arrived at the Capitol on January 6, 2021 to peacefully exercise their First Amendment rights, given to them under the protection of the United States Constitution. They were there to voice their concern over an election riddled with integrity issues. Entire families came armed with prayer, their Bibles, music instruments, and American flags. They had no clue they would become pawns in a grab for political power and prey for what has become the most powerful office in the land, the Department of Justice. Since January 6, 2021, over 1,500 Americans have been arrested for being associated with January 6, 2021. 3.5 years later, just as the Gestapo rounded up and imprisoned its citizens, the DOJ continues to round up and ruin the lives of the American people. The evil seeping through our nation knows no age. Americans from birth to 81 years of age have been targeted and continue to be targeted. Over the last 3+ years, I have come to personally know stories of the unlawfully persecuted and unlawfully prosecuted. 1,500+ stories would result in a book. So for now, I will share with you some of the inhumane treatment and inhumane living conditions that your American brothers and sisters are being subjected to daily. It's my understanding that you have been swatted on several occasions, so you have experienced the fear that comes with having your door kicked in and laser lights from guns pointed at you and your children. This is common practice of the Department of Justice. They come to homes around 4 a.m. with 30 to 40 officers. They kick in their doors and spread out as if they were arresting ISIS or Hamas. The children, along with their parents, are traumatized. These are Americans with no criminal background. Many are combat veterans, first responders, nurses, doctors, teachers, blue-collar and white-collar workers. Children are subjected to seeing their mothers and fathers, grandfathers and grandmothers treated like criminals, handcuffed, placed in vehicles, and transported to prisons across our nation. Arrests include husband and wives, daughters and mothers, fathers and sons. They are being held in inhumane conditions. They are subjected to toilet water on the prison floors, black mold and human feces on their walls. They are targeted by prison guards and prisoners. They are placed in solitary confinement for weeks at a time. They have no heat in the winter and no AC in the hot summers. During COVID, some prisons would deny them access to their attorneys and family members if they declined the COVID vaccine. Several J6ers were physically assaulted by prison guards when they lowered their mask to take their prescriptions. They have been subjected to re-education inside their prison cells. They have been made to watch videos and read material denouncing Donald Trump. Until now, this form of torture has been prominent in Chinese prison camps. 3+ years ago, I started what I believed was going to be a few written letters each week to a few Americans who I believed was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I was naive to the inner workings of the Department of Justice and the Bureau of Prisons. 3+ years later, hundreds and hundreds of letters from persecuted Americans, I have become very educated to the entire system. I personally received letters from the DOJ, BOP, deeming me as anti-government because I wrote a letter to the J6 incarcerated about America's founding fathers. Never did I think George Washington and all the American blood that has been shed to preserve our Constitution would bring us to where we are today. Our government has become the tyranny which our founding fathers fled from. America was supposed to forever be that shining city on the hill. God no longer resides in the halls we once called freedom. He now resides with his children behind American prison bars. There was a time in which I believed in the three balances of powers that created our nation. I believed in our leaders. I believed in our leadership so much that I wanted to run for office. I no longer have any desire to come to your hill. I was hopeful when the Republicans took back Congress. I, along with hundreds of thousands of Americans, believed Congress would be the answer to the lack of accountability. We have not seen accountability. We have seen weakness and broken promises. What we have seen is that Congress has no power or chooses not to use it. Congress holds the purse strings. If you truly hold the purse strings, then you would not be approving money that is earmarked for our desolation. What's truly sad is the money that is being used to destroy our country, our people, and fund foreign wars comes from we the people. Forever in God we trust.
Good job, Ken. Good job. That's powerful. I just felt like that letter just sums up what we're trying to do here, and I just wanted to get that out there some way or another. So thank you for doing that.
It gives me chills just to, it gives me chills every time I hear it, really, or reread it.
Yeah, it does.
Yep.
It does.
Did he get a comment on that, Dale? I want to pull up the comment just to show you, because it was David Nally says, can this be shared to social media? Treatment is reminiscent of the Stalin Gulag.
Yeah.
He's reading Gulag Archipelago. This is what it looks like. So I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, but it looks like a good read, David. And I don't know, we'd have to check into that a little further, see if we could do that or talk to Wendy about it. But
yeah, I'm sure it'd be okay. But yeah,
just an amazing letter.
We'll certainly try and do that. Well, our next segment, folks, we're going to bring to you a couple that they're both prisoners, J6 prisoners, not in prison, but on home confinement. And they have also started a nonprofit to help not only J6ers, but their families and relatives, people that are caught up in this whole mess. It's just unbelievable. I think you're going to really enjoy hearing from them. And we'll be doing part 1 this evening, and we'll do part 2 next Monday evening. But I want to bring to you now Mark and Jaleese Middleton from Texas. And their organization is called American Patriot Relief. So without further ado, let's bring them on. And here's a segment that I recorded with them just in the past week. Greetings, everyone. Dale Parrish, COS Indiana Live, your host. As you probably know, we've been involved, getting more and more involved in the January 6th situation going on in our country, and the people that were involved in that incident. And our focus has really been on, the government overreach, the government treatment of these individuals that were involved in January 6th. And I just want to tell you that I'm learning more and more about the treatment of these individuals. So today I'm going to bring to you a couple in Texas, from Texas, that have an organization that is dedicated to helping January 6th individuals and their families, because it's just, like I said, I'm just learning more and more how so many of these people are mistreated. So I want to bring on our guest today, and I want you all to meet Mark and Jaleese Middleton. You are in Texas, right? I didn't make a mistake on that, right?
No, you are correct. We are in Texas.
Okay. I didn't ask you. Are you Dallas Cowboy fans? Did I ask you that question?
No, but we're not. We don't really pay attention to sports at all.
Okay.
Once they decided they had a legal opinion of politics, we X'd them off the list.
Did you? Okay. All right. Well, Mark and Jaleese operate a group called American Patriot Relief. And we're going to get very much into not only their organization, but their personal situation is involved, as they are involved in this too. And I think you'll find that very interesting. So, American Patriot Relief, a nonprofit organization. So, like I said, we'll be getting into that very shortly. So, Mark and Jaleese, tell us your story. And I'll just let you go with it right now, and just kind of give us a brief overview of what happened to you and what your involvement has been.
Sure.
So April 21st of 2021. So now we're 3.5 years since. The federal government raided our farm with 2 SWAT teams and about 22 other agents, which is typical for J6ers. Almost all of us have been raided with SWAT teams. Jaleesa
Because you're so dangerous to
we're
society.
so dangerous. Yes.
That's right.
They the Joint Terrorism Task Force, we had 2 teams of those here.
My goodness.
Yeah, it's absolutely mind-blowing. So throwing flashbang grenades the whole 9 yards because they're instructed by Washington to do that with all of us.
With an MRAP.
With an MRAP. So that's basically an assault vehicle, an armored assault vehicle. Yeah, full-blown raid. And this is 2 people right here that have never had any issues with the law. We hadn't even had traffic tickets on our records in years and years and years. So basically squeaky clean, upstanding American citizens, and we got raided. We were taken to county jail in Collin County, Texas. So if you're familiar with Texas, that's Plano area. We were booked in overnight and put in isolation cells. And then the next morning they came and got us, the federal agents, and took us to Dallas to the federal courthouse. And we were arraigned that day. Neither one of us had really a clue what was going on, other than they did tell us that we were being arrested for our activity on January 6th. And they refused to show us a search warrant or an arrest warrant. But we were arraigned on, I believe it was 7 federal charges or 6? 6 federal charges that morning. And then we were so dangerous, needing all of that SWAT and federal assets there on our farm, that we were then promptly released out of the court on our own recognizance and told to be nice and report to the judge on whatever day it was, a few days later. So we got back home. They had seized our cell phones, our information, even our house address and phone numbers and emails and everything were posted all over social media, all over the national news, everything, totally doxxed. Totally vulnerable, and we were barred from possessing weapons, whatever that means. Even the judge would not define what a weapon is. And despite me trying to, cage him in, he refused. The only response we got is, "We'll know what a weapon is when we see it."
Okay.
Yeah, that's very ambiguous.
Which I believe is their attempt to keep the door open to incarcerate at their convenience.
Yes. So, from then we began our federal, our fight with the federal government. And, I just have to say that God is amazing. Everything that he's done for us the last 3.5 years has been absolutely mind-boggling. I've learned to call him the God of the ridiculous, because his miracles often are so ridiculous they are funny at what he does. And this is someone who has a master's degree in theology.
Not trying to be blasphemous, just enjoying the creativity of the Lord.
Yes, very much so.
But this is all stemmed from January 6th. And the interesting thing about that is, we were laughing about it at our arrest, because we thought they were just being outlandish to, scare us and show us, force and, intimidate us for never standing against the government. We really didn't know the seriousness of it until after we got out of prison, and our daughter came and picked us up, and we're still joking about it. And she was like, "You don't understand. This is all over the national news. This is in, the New York Times and the Washington Post. It was
LA
a big
Times,
deal."
everything, all over the local media.
Now, did you go in the Capitol?
No.
The two of you didn't even go in, did you?
No. So we entered Capitol grounds on the west side, there by the reflection pond.
But let's clarify that. So that morning when we walked through at 7 in the morning or whenever it was, there was snow fencing around the Capitol, and we didn't think anything of it. You know, we each had our different opinions. I thought they were just trying to keep us off the lawn until it was time for the speakers. You know, anyway, when we come back through after hearing Trump's speech, we left it early. We get there and there's no fencing anywhere. So when we say we're on the Capitol lawn, we thought that was going to be permissible because there were speakers due at the Capitol. Well, how are you going to hear the speakers if you can't get up to the Capitol?
And I've heard that mentioned before about the fencing and
yeah.
I'm sorry. So go ahead.
There were 5 permitted rallies that day on the Capitol grounds, all around the Capitol, and the area we went to was the primary spot for where the speakers were going to be, which now in hindsight is the inauguration stage they were setting up. Not have ever been to DC during the inauguration anytime close. We had no clue. And, you know, the fencing that was up because of the construction for the inaugural stage. It was not for January 6th.
Okay.
Yeah. So we went up the lawn, and the DOJ actually showed footage of us just casually strolling about up the lawn with just dumb looks on our face. We were amazed at everything that we were witnessing.
So we went straight up to barricades, and that's something I want people to understand is if fencing was there to keep people out, then why would they have set another row of barricades within that fencing? That just shows the intent, in my view, that they were looking to create an environment to where it looked like that was the last place you were allowed to go, which was up on the Capitol steps.
Mm-hmm. So we went all the way up to the steps, and, you know, logic tells people that if you go up to a line of barricades and there's police standing behind it, that's as far as they want you to go, which is what we did. We went up to the barricades, and we actually spoke with some of the Capitol police officers there, you know, basically just exchanging niceties. And at some point, one of us mentioned, you know, asked, what do we do at a protest? Because we'd never been to a protest. And the other one responded, well, I don't know, let's just pray, I guess. So we turned around and huddled up in prayer. You can see that on the videos. And we began to pray for our nation and everything that was going on. One time we broke when a chant of USA, USA got started by somebody. And the DOJ used that to ostensibly claim we weren't praying, we were chanting the whole time, or you know, screaming loudly, and we weren't.
Like somehow you can't include God in that, but
and,
whatever.
You know, and you know, totally glossed over the fact that we were silent 99% of the time. But as we're praying, my back was to the barricades, and the Capitol, actually not the Capitol Police, the DC Metro Police. You can see them. Yellow Jackets is what we've called them. You know, many of the DC police were in yellow jackets. So they began attacking me from behind with clubs.
Really?
Yes. And as we broke prayer, she turned around and noticed it first as they're clubbing me in the back, and I'm kind of huddled down, taking the blows on my back. They reached out and grabbed her and tried to pull her over the barricades. We both had scarves on that day, Trump scarves. And
I had mine doubled around my head to cover my face because there was tear gas in the air.
Yeah.
And I didn't want exposed to it. So when they started pulling my scarf, it drew it tight and started choking me out. Well, I couldn't even scream. They were trying to pull me over the barricade, over to the police line. And Mark was grabbing my arm, and grabbing the officer's arm, trying to get him to let go of my scarf and me. And so we tussled for a moment, and what they broadcasted in national news was a picture off of the body cam footage where it looked like my hand was grabbing at an officer. But what was really going on was he was holding on to my arms and pulling me over the barricade. And that was a relaxed view of my hand. You know, so they create their own narrative with these pictures. Yeah. And so anyway, the crowd saw what was going on, and that we found out later that a bunch of men that was behind us actually ripped us away from the police officers. And the one that was holding my scarf so tight actually pulled through the barricades with me when they pulled me back. And at that point, he's just feet from my face, and he pepper sprayed me and Mark while still holding me down with my scarf.
Jeez.
And, you know, after that, we went over, they led us over to a little area where they were, where other patriots were there, basically given triage. We were given bottles of water to dump on our eyes and Visine as well. And after about 45 minutes, we could see, 45 minutes, we could see, and we looked back at the Capitol, and, you know, everybody, they had breached the line at that point. So after making a Facebook Live video that the government made a lot of hash over, you know, we were basically praising the Patriots. We had no idea anyone had went in at that time, or had no clue that anyone was planning. We went on back to the hotel room and cleaned up and started watching Fox News. That's when we found out that Ashley Babbitt had been murdered, and that people had went into the Capitol. We found all that out on Fox News later that afternoon.
Okay. All right. Wow.
Yeah, pretty intense, huh?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, let's jump to, am I correct that you went through a trial, right? And have you been charged on 9 counts, or is that number correct?
No, that's correct. So each time we turned down a plea deal, they would add more charges or up charges.
Okay.
And so we actually had one of the misdemeanors turned into a felony. That's the 231 charge, which is
Civil disorder.
Civil disorder. And then we had the 1512 Enron paper shredding charge added to us, like most or many J6ers, not most, but many. And
that was eventually overturned by the Supreme Court.
And then we each had a felony assaulting federal police officer charge on us. 111s.
So the point of that is, you know, we started out with 6 charges. They eventually were punitive, adding charges to us for refusing plea deals. We got up to 9 charges, and then because of the Supreme Court ruling, they knocked one off, and now we've been found guilty of 8 federal charges, 3 of which are felonies.
Okay. I'm getting close to my time here. We're going to have to wrap this up, but just briefly now, I know your sentencing date has been changed a number of times, right?
Correct.
And I'm sure there's reasons for that, but your next date is October 22nd. Is that correct?
That is correct. They've changed it monthly ever since May 24th, and now we're scheduled for October 22nd.
Well, I can't imagine how that must feel. That, I mean, you're basically still prisoners in a way, right?
Yes, we are on home confinement. So
home confinement.
Yep.
And every time and this keeps getting delayed and delayed. Wow, I don't know, guys. We got to wrap it up here on this segment. But I want to bring you back, and we're going to continue on with this because there's a lot more to talk about. So will you come back to us?
Absolutely.
All right. We'll be back to you very shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb.
Well, guys, I hope you're understanding their story and their situation. Believe me, there's a lot more to be taught that we can talk about with them, and we will do that on another segment. So this is segment 1 of our interview with Mark and Jaleese Middleton. So thank you very much. Pretty powerful, huh?
Dale, we go back and look at everything that we're discovering about January 6th, and you add to that a horrific storm that we've just had, and you see the response of our government again. and it just makes you feel as an American that, you know, we might. It seems like we're all in prison right about now. I don't know.
We could devote a whole program to what's going on around this storm, and there's another big one on its way, Milton.
Yep, and
So-
and you know as much warning as that one's given us, there still won't be anybody prepared for it. So, I don't know.
Anyway,
it is shocking. We've got some comments about it, and it was a great interview, Dale. It's just, like I said, when we can finish this up with segment 2, I think the more that I hear from all these J6ers, and obviously we're grateful to Wendy for being able to patch us through to these people, and so that we can get their stories.
Wendy's got us lined up with another. This is an ex-prisoner. Was a major in the Air Force, I believe, a veteran. Anyway, I'll be developing that one as time goes on here. But yeah, looking forward to part 2. Okay, well, let's move on, Ken, and let's talk about what's coming up here next. We've our next broadcast will be on October 14th, where we'll be doing American Patriot Relief Part 2 with Mark and Jaleese Middleton, and we got a very interesting one coming up here. I'm planning on recording this tomorrow. This young lady out of Martinsville, Indiana, has written some articles on who counts the votes. And I think you're really going to enjoy meeting her. She is really into this election integrity. So I think that's going to be very interesting, what she has found out right here in the state of Indiana.
Yeah.
So, and maybe we'll have more on the strategy meeting that was just conducted. We did interview some new leaders, so perhaps we can play some of those on the 14th.
Dale, we did have one question, and I'm not sure whether you know the answer to it or not, but through your interview with them. But I know they're on. We know that they're on home detention or home retention, whatever you want to call it. We had a question wondering whether the government seized cars, their tractors, any other thing. Do you know if anything was seized or don't you know?
I don't know. I want to say yes, but especially, I guess, communication devices.
I know that, yeah, they definitely took their phones and what have you.
I quite honestly, I don't know. I'll try and find out the answer to if there were any other things seized during this ordeal. Yeah, but that's a good question. All right. Next roundtable coming up is October 28th, and this is going to be on the Bill of Rights. Don't you dare! In other words, these are, according to John, these are things that are forbidden. So it ought to be a very, very interesting time on our next roundtable. And
one word stands out to me in that little subscript down there, Dale. It's the word "don't."
Don't. Where have you heard that before?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to go back and I'll have to sleep on that one. I would just comes to
That's
mind.
good. I didn't even think of that. That's good, Ken. All right. Well, folks, as usual, if you have a comment or a question about tonight's broadcast, feel free to drop us an email at raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. That's raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. So drop us an email and we'll get back to you. Ken, I want to show everyone a chart that let me bring this up. We can talk about it. I hope everybody can see this all right. This is the results of some polling that was done, and this appeared in one of our COS publications that comes out every week, and it's a poll. And normally, Ken, I don't pay much attention to polls. Do you? Do you pay very much attention to polls?
Not a whole lot. I mean, it's just kind of something that that you goes in one ear out the other. I guess I don't give a whole lot of credence to them.
Yeah, I don't either. But this one really caught my eye. And this was performed by the Susquehanna Polling and Research Corporation. I know I've heard of this group before. I think it's a well-known polling organization, but anyway, so I think they've got a good reputation. I don't know for sure, quite honestly, but I was just impressed at not only. Well, let's just kind of go quickly through some of these results that they found. 88% of Americans support term limits for career politicians. 86% of Americans feel confident about voting. Now that number surprises me. Does that surprise you any?
Yeah, it does.
I thought there was still a lot of concern about our voting process. 71% of Americans believe additional limits on federal power are needed. Now that's very interesting, and of course that's one of the pillars of our resolution for conducting a convention of states. 68%, as a matter of fact, back a meeting of the states to propose amendments for fiscal responsibility and limits on federal power. And 58% of Americans, 59%, trust state legislators more than Congress. That kind of makes sense because we're closer to our state representatives and state legislators than our congressional legislators. So does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. But here's at the bottom here, this really caught my attention, and that is the voter registration breakdown. Now, I don't know if this is, quite honestly, I don't know if this was the makeup of the people that they polled. I don't know, or if this is the results. I'm not sure, but it's pretty split. Democrat 38%, Republican 37%. Independent 18%, and 7% unaffiliated. So any of that information pop out at you, Ken?
Well, I think that the numbers are so close there between obviously the Democrat and Republican numbers down that I think things that are popping up. I heard just on recent Pennsylvania information that there were, and I don't have the exact number, but there was a number of counties in Pennsylvania that have been switched from blue to red. And a lot of it was due to a gentleman that was actually at this last rally and came up to the podium to speak a little bit. A gentleman that has been out canvassing and going from town to town and getting people signed up. So I think when you look at the things, some of those things like that. Again, I know from a poll sometimes it's hard to tell, but the numbers certainly are interesting, I think.
Yeah. I thought they were interesting. I thought it was worth us giving a little time to. So that's why I brought that up. Anyway, normally don't get too into polling, but that one really caught my eye.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, we'll wrap it up tonight with another episode from John Ackerman on COS basics. And I believe, if I've got it right, this one has to do with is an Article 5 convention constitutional? So this ought to be very good. John does a great job on these. This is episode number 18, and he's already hit the 29 mark as far as, so we got quite a few more to go here.
He's way ahead of us.
Yeah. But I think he told me at the strategy meeting, Ken, that he was out of ideas right now. So
I think we can do a few things. I think we might have a few things coming
Yeah.
his way that he can work on. So
we'll get him working on something else. So, folks, we'll go ahead and play this latest episode from John. And once the video is completed, then we'll be signing off for the evening. So, everyone, thank you for tuning in. Appreciate everyone's interest in our program. We're trying our best to bring you the latest, the COS perspective is what I like to say with regard to a lot of the issues going on in our country right now. So everyone, thank you once again for tuning in tonight. So, Ken, you have a good evening, bud.
you too, Dale. Good to see you again.
We'll see you.
Good night now.
John Ackerman for Convention of States, Indiana, continuing with COS Basics number 18 and continuing to bust myths. This next myth is that an Article 5 convention is a constitutional convention. In other words, a con. Oh, they like to say that. The radical left, John Birch Society, George Soros and company, they love to say con. But this is no con. This is an amendments convention. You see, it is simply wrong to imply that an Article 5 convention held today would be anything like the 1787 Philadelphia Convention that produced the United States Constitution. The states that gathered then had individual supreme political powers. They were sovereign states. They were not bound to the Articles of Confederation procedures or guidelines for proposing amendments. Today, an Article 5 convention has limits. The limits are rooted in Article 5 of our Constitution. An Article 5 convention is limited to only proposing amendments to the existing Constitution. It says so right in there. Read it sometime. And so the myth that an Article 5 convention is a con, a constitutional convention, busted.